See you there. Yeah.
You take these, Steve?
Yes.
I think I should have
All right, we'll call the October 9th meeting of the Improvement Services Committee meeting to order at 6:07 PM. Alder Burnett is present, Alder Dorff is present, Alder Johnson is present, Alder Weary and Alder Nicholson are excused. Call for approval of the agenda.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Approval of minutes.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Alder Burnett, second by Alder Dorff. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, motion carries. Item D, regular business number 1, consideration of possible action request by Alder Burnett on amending the city's ordinance on landscaping, weeds, vegetation, and gardens on residential lots held from September 25th, 2019, Improvement and Services Committee meeting. Alder Burnett.
Yes, I placed this communication in about a month ago, and it had to do with a request of a constituent. This has been an ongoing situation. Earlier today, I corresponded text messages with my constituent, and he requested that this be postponed indefinitely. So I'll make a motion to receive and place on file.
Second.
We have a motion by Alder Wery to receive and place on file, second by Alder Dorff. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item number 2, consideration of possible action request by Alder Burnett on improving flooding issues by removing dirt and ditches and around culvert on Hillcrest Drive, specifically near West Wave Drive. Alder Burnett.
Yes, this has been an issue I've been working on for about a year and a half. If the committee recalls, Hillcrest was up for road reconstruction in April of 2018. City Council held that for a year. We was hoping that Hillcrest would be reconstructed this year. For a variety of reasons, it was not. Partially due because we did not have enough revenue from the wheel tax. Since then and ongoing, a number of constituents have reached out to me, and I have personally toured the area along Hillcrest, and there is significant flooding that has occurred. So many of the constituents have requested that, keep in mind, it's not a storm sewer system, it's culverts. So there is areas in the ditch where there's a huge amount of water, being held, and they believe, as do I believe, that there's not proper flowage, so they have requested that the ditch be dug out deeper to allow more water to flow through. With the amount of rainfall we have received recently, there's a lot of flooding, and the flooding has reached basements at a level we haven't seen out there. So I placed this agenda item on before us, if you will, and I'm sure Director Grenier will speak to the issue, but many people here wanting to speak to the issue. So after Director.
Why don't we hear from staff first? Yeah, Director Grenier.
Well, as Alder Burnett indicated, the drainage improvements that are being discussed were part of the project which was not approved last year. So had that project been approved in 2018 when it was proposed, those drainage improvements would have been completed at that time. Because the project was not approved, again, we were very, very clear about things, that if the project did not go forward last year, then those improvements, all improvements out there, would wait until the project does. And as a matter of fact, we also indicated at that time that if the project was canceled, that it would actually go to the bottom of the list. Now, it wasn't canceled, it was held. The project is on the capital improvement program for 2020. So it will be built next year, assuming that you approve the capital improvement program containing that project. And those drainage improvements will be completed at that time.
Okay. So do we have some people here?
Motion to open the floor to hear from interested parties.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Alder Burnett to open the floor, second by Alder Dorff. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Anybody here to speak to this item?
You got Dick Diedrich, 1604 Hillcrest.
Just step on up to the podium here, just state your name and address.
Yeah, Dick Diedrich from 1604 Hillcrest. I'm 79 years old and I've lived out there for 77 years. And all of this property, what they say is wetland, we used to farm all that. And the ditches were cleaned out, the water run out. Now I know you got the picture there or John, you got those pictures, eh? There's a picture of this, kind of want to see these.
Sure.
This is on
Where it was wet.
on Hillcrest, and this is looking over towards West Point Drive. This was all farmland.
This is a good one.
We had, and
From the farm. to my
this is
house.
looking from Hillcrest up towards John's house here. There's no trees, no nothing there.
That house he's
And that
referring to
was-
is my house, he built that house. It lived in that
And
house.
this property here is where I lived when I was a kid. Now, on this property, the ditch in front of that house, from the driveway down towards Sandia, my dad and myself put those culverts in there when I was 12 years old, cement culverts. And those have been in there ever since. And you'll see there's a grate there. You can see down in there, my dad put that in there. So those have been there since I was 12 years old, so I was looking today, and you look at that water and it barely trickles there. And then, you know, you can get a wetland wherever you want if you block up the drainage.
Yeah.
I mean, we farmed that years and years. And once the ditches weren't clean, everything got wet, and the water can't get out, now you got cattails and everything, and all of a sudden it's a wetland. So, I'm just saying, in front of that farmhouse, that's all cement culverts. I don't know if they plan on digging that out, or,
Offhand, I wouldn't know. The details are in the design for the street project.
because there's a little small culvert, I looked at it today, and the water just trickles down through the ditch and goes there. Now, I don't know if it goes across the road and then goes back, and it goes back, you know, by Sandia. But by that old farmhouse, from that driveway, down to the other side of that house, there was another driveway there. And I put all that culvert in there with my dad. Cement culverts, they're probably about so big around. And I did that when I was 12 years old, so you know how long they've been in there. And they're probably half full of stuff, that's why the water don't run out of there. And I don't know what's on the other end of Sandia, you know. So, anyway, that's it.
Committee have any questions? No? Okay, thank
But
you.
he's got some other pictures there too.
Did you want these back?
Well, you brought them all here?
We saw them.
Oh, you got
Yeah.
Yep, we passed them, yeah. Yep.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
John Remington, 3207 Westway.
My name's John Remington, 3207 Westway Drive, Green Bay. Now, Dick just showed you these pictures. This is going back, I'm guessing, mid-60s. You can look south from the old Dietrich farmhouse to my house. It's all open field, there's no trees or nothing there, it was all cornfield. His dad had that was a big farm. You can look at this and see that it was neglected, and the water backed up, and now it's all wetland. I live on the corner, Westway and Hillcrest. I drew this all out today. If you have an interest in looking at this, I can show you where.
Please do, yep. Here, why don't we, can we put it in the middle? Just, Alder Burnett's probably familiar with that area.
He is,
Is
he
it
is,
your,
yeah.
that's your
Yeah.
area, what people let, let's say, yeah, we'll let Alder Burnett.
Well, I've looked at it before,
Okay,
but
all
I'm
right.
familiar
Like
with it.
this.
I can show you where I live. There you go. I live right here. This is Westway. Here's Hillcrest coming north to Mason. FF goes that way to 29. Here's 54 in Mason. I live here on the corner. Standing here, this is all uphill to here. So all the water, when it rains, everybody's sump pumps right here with the water, with this wetland right now, they run 24 hours a day. Mine runs every 2 minutes. My neighbor Jack runs every 2 minutes. Dan. All these houses have sump pumps running 24 hours a day, dumping water in that ditch. It all comes down here to a 16-inch culvert. And I'm going to show you a picture of this end of that culvert. The mud and everything is built up over the years. I bought that house 14 years ago. I've been asking the city of Green Bay 12 years to dig this stretch of this south right here, this ditch. That's where it's blocked up. From here to here, it's open. This is a 30-inch culvert going across here, and this water goes through here, across Mason to the settling pond over here, and goes down to the river. There's no water in this ditch right here because this is all blocked up. It's just grown up over the years. It's all grass roots, cattail roots, everything else. This water comes down here, stops right on this side of Westway. You can't get through here. So this is all backed up. In the spring of the year, when we have the snow runoff, I've got, I'm looking at this back upside down, right here. This is a big wide marsh. This is a river. This is my house again. This is the river. When the snow is melting, this is all uphill going south. That's a 6-inch river coming down through here, going with the water from our sump pumps, and then if we have a rain on top of it, it backs up here and runs over the top of the road. That ditch is, oh, hi, 3 foot? Runs over the top of the road, goes over the top of my driveway. Just about took this back driveway out on me this spring because it can't go nowhere here. This is, I got it estimated, 450 feet that needs to be dug out. Should have been dug out 12 years ago, should have been dug out 30 years ago. It's never been taken care of. This water, this is all wetland now. This is the old Dietrich farmhouse. That was cornfield. This water is backed up, can't go nowhere. The city of Green Bay back when left them fill this all in right here with sand. They built the dam and backed all this up here and made this all wetland. You've seen those pictures that Dick showed you? It was all open field, cornfield years ago. The city created this problem. I'm asking to get this dug out right here, and that water can go down to this 30-inch culvert and go where it used to go.
Is that part of the plan? Maybe you should show that to Director Grenier, because he just was saying that next year.
Well, and again, I don't have the plans
You don't have the plans?
here, and
Oh, okay, so you can't really say.
I know you might find this a little hard to believe, but I don't do the design.
No, I
I have-
thought you would.
I have subordinate staff who, design engineers who do that. So to be able to speak on the intricate details of
It's
what's
not
going
too
on with the
intricate.
project.
I mean, there's a
What I
big
can,
ditch.
but what I can tell you is, yes.
Yes.
Significant drainage improvements for the entire length of the project.
Right.
Were part of the project.
And it got voted down by the residents, and we get that. And now, next year, it will be,
built, assuming
But
that,
this has been a problem for me for 12 years, not just a year since this got shut down. I've been 12 years. I've had Jesse out there. I had Tony with the street maintenance out there. I've had people out there and showed them the problem. This ditch needs to be dug out to get rid of our
They
water.
keep sending people out. They keep sending people
Okay,
out.
one at a time, sir.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, they send people out there and nothing ever gets done.
Yes, quick questions. John, the flooding the last few years throughout the city has been pretty significantly
Yes,
in a
it
bad
has.
way. Have you noticed that there have been additional water-related issues in your neighborhood?
The
during last year?
water-related issue, like I said, Dick Dietrich built this house that I have right now. And when Dick built that house, there was no water in that basement. You look at them pictures, this was cornfield. There was no wetland here, there was no marsh here. I bought it 14 years ago. The first couple of years were fine. And that ditch keeps getting worse and worse and worse, and now there's no water going down through there at all.
Yeah.
And every year, the water in our basements gets worse. Dan's got water, Jerry's got water, all of us on Westway.
So as a concerned homeowner, taxpayer, you, at that time, 12 years ago, you contacted whoever was involved in the
I
city?
started out with Tony with the supervisor for the street maintenance.
Mhm.
And he came out there a couple of different times.
What are the reasons that you're told that nothing could be done or will be done?
There's no reason, it's just, you show them, I don't have a degree in engineering,
Mhm.
but Ray Charles could see the way to set up to go down that 30-inch culvert and go down across Mason, this water. You show them all this and you show them the ditch needs to be dug out, we'll look into it. And that's the end of it. 12 years, I've been fighting this if I seem a little excited right now, I am. 12 years I've been fighting to get that little stretch of ditch dug out so we can get rid of the water from Westway. We got 6 houses on the south side of Westway dumping water from sump pumps 24 hours a day. We got 2 houses on the south side of Westway dumping water 24 hours a day in there. on top of the rainwater in the spring of the year, on top of the snow runoff, that water's gotta get out of there.
But your sump pump running the last, or consistently every 2 minutes, has that been the
Every 2
last
minutes.
couple of years?
Yeah.
You think digging out right now
Oh, yeah.
this fall, if we were able to have Public Works dig out something, you think, you believe, based on your living there, you feel that
I
that would
have-
solve the problem?
Jesse knows, I'll show you. My address is Westway, but my driveway, my garage comes in off Hillcrest. I have a back driveway here to a garage. I dug to where my sump pump goes in. I dug with a spade shovel, and this isn't fun to chop this out of there. I dug it out to my sump pump about 4 days ago. I dropped the water 3 inches just from there to my sump pump, just by digging that out. My ditch is a mess now too. I can't even go down in there. I sink in black mud to my knees. And on top of that, well, I got a picture on my phone. There's a fire hydrant right here. Sits right here. We had a fire, what was that, 4 years ago?
Yeah.
And they were coming down there to get the water. You should have seen them firemen trying to get to that fire hydrant to get water out of there. Like I said, you'll sink right to your knees in black mud. I'm not exaggerating. It's a problem, and after 12 years, I know they're gonna reconstruct the street, but right now, that's not doing us any good, and next spring, we're gonna have all this water again.
Okay, any other questions? Okay. Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else that wants to speak on this item?
Pat Buckley, 3249 West Point.
Mr. Buckley, step on up. How are you, sir?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Good. So, again, we understand where we were last year at this point with the road reconstruction, but as they said, the water runoff problem has been there for years. Now, my prior house was on 3266 West Point, which is on the other side of Westway. And over the years, after I built that house, more and more water continued, especially in the springtime, would get backed up from Westway, where we'd have standing water, where we actually had to put drains in our yard to get rid of the water out of our yard. Now, if you go to the end of West Point, there's no place to go because all the drainage culverts are completely grown over. At one point, we had to have Public Works come out because during the wintertime, it gets plowed with a grader, and the grader just plowed up the culvert, and so eventually they had to come out and cut it out. But you think we'd had to do that, they could have did that without me calling, can notice it when it's sticking 3 feet up in the air. So it's been a problem before us having an issue with we want the road fixed, however, it was how it was being charged out that was the problem. Clearly, when you have the amount of development that's happened out there and you don't put in proper runoff, I mean, if you look at some of the roads around there, some of the subdivisions around there, their roads are just all wavy. If you go to Hillcrest Road, especially, you can tell we don't have proper runoff because in the spring, especially in the spring, but during the wintertime, the way when the frost hits it, the way the dips are in the road, if you try to go across there with a vehicle that's low, or like on my truck when I have a plow, the plow always bottoms out. Even if I'm going very slow, it'll still bottom out. It shouldn't be dropping that much where my plow hits the road when it's completely up. So, what they talk about is, we pay a stormwater management fee, and nothing ever gets done with our stormwater management. So when they talk about the culverts, this is a culvert by one of the driveways. Do you know where the culvert is? Can you see the culvert? This would be the other side of the driveway. So, that's a big part of the reason, and it doesn't take us to have a degree or an engineering to figure out that when it's completely grown over, when stuff is dumped in there throughout the years from the plows, whether it be, stuff gets dumped in there, rocks, things like that, and it doesn't get cleaned out, you have a problem. And it's backing up where it's affecting not just them on Westway, they're the first ones because of how it's created such a marsh there, but it's affecting the residents the rest of the way up. And I understand that we're looking to do something with our road next year, waiting to see how that plan is coming together, but the amount of damage that's going to be caused probably to a lot of their homes and probably even some of the homes on West Point Road by this time next year, especially because the water level right now is going to be substantial. Because if any one of their sump pumps fail, they're going to have 3 or 4 feet of water in their basement. So we're trying to be proactive again, and I share their sentiment. I don't know how many times, even when I was an alderman, I've had Tony Feetzer come out there or send somebody out there, and they come out and look at it, but nothing gets done. And a lot of it would be, let's get the ditches cleaned out so the water can go through them. It cannot go through them to get to, I think the water's supposed to go to the catch pond on the other side of Mason. Is that where the water's supposed to eventually run off?
Yeah, possible.
But it can't get there. And then the way theirs is set up, it's no wonder it backs up onto West Point Road by our house. So I think it's a problem. I think it's, I lived out in the country for years, and the county used to come and every so many years clean out the ditches. And it would only take them a short period of time with a backhoe to get it done. They're usually, a block in a day and a half to do a block. It doesn't seem like we're asking for much. So,
Why do you, Pat, thanks for coming.
Yeah.
Why do you think it hasn't been done? 'Cause it's frustrating for me too.
it's not a priority to DPW, so it doesn't get done. And I think that, we all pay our taxes out there. The last house I paid over $12,000 a year in taxes. This house I pay almost $30,000 a year in taxes. We also pay a stormwater management fee on top of it, which, just another form of taxation. We need some stormwater management.
You've lived out there for a while. You were the alderman from 2010 to 2012. You've been the county supervisor since 2010. Do you think that has gotten worse through the?
Oh, definitely. I've lived out there since 94. I've lived out there since 94, 95.
So you're living out there when a lot of the development was placed on Sandia, and a lot of movement of dirt and sand and.
How many times have we had to fix the road off of Sandia in the subdivision there? We have a water management problem, and it's not just on Hillcrest, it's on some of the other roads around there. But it's supposed to come out to Hillcrest, so. Anything? Thank you.
Anybody else?
I
You
want
may
to show you one picture. I know Pat just showed you some pictures. Now, the picture I'm going to show you to, I've seen Jesse's been out there. Again, this is all this water coming down here, going through this. It's a 16-inch culvert to handle all this. That's what I'm going to show you. This is the north side of that culvert. I live on the south side of the road. There's a stop sign there.
Okay.
Okay. We're right back to that again. That's the same picture looking north. This is Hillcrest right here. That's the same picture looking north. That's the ditch that I'm asking to have dug out.
Are there phragmites in there too?
Pardon me?
Are there phragmites in there? Phragmites, do you know what
I don't
those
know
are?
what those are, no.
Oh, okay. They have to be handled differently, so I
There's no
just.
fish or nothing in there. You might find a frog in there.
No, phragmites are a plant, but we won't get into that.
Pat mentioned about gravel and stuff like that getting plowed in there. What this is in a swamp is silt, and it grows.
So,
Your grass roots die, everything just keeps growing and growing and growing. And if you could see that with that culvert, it's to the top of the culvert. There's just about that much water at the end of that culvert. You can throw a leaf right there and see that nothing's moving. It can't get down that ditch.
Because it's full of silt.
It's full of silt. Thank you again.
Anybody else here to speak to this item? All right, entertain a motion to close the floor.
So moved?
Second?
Motion by Alder Dorf, second by Alder Burnett. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Yeah. Okay.
Your item, Alder
Yeah,
Burnett.
so,
What do you think?
Director Grenier, what's stopping the city from right now or in the last few years when it has really escalated? What's stopping the city from going out there and clearing out the ditches?
What's stopping it right now?
Not right now,
Permits.
2 years ago.
2 years ago, what we did instead of going out and just mucking out a ditch was we put together a permanent solution. We invested tens of thousands of dollars with a consultant to design the reconstructed road and drainage system. That decision was not supported by the common council.
Right.
So to say that DPW has done nothing is a gross misstatement. We invested tens of thousands of dollars to come up with a permanent solution. That solution was not supported, okay? That's not something DPW should be held responsible for. We came up with a solution.
I didn't sign
Now,
up to
what-
talk.
What's stopping us now is there are permits. As you've heard, there are areas within those ditch lines that have been declared wetlands. That's not us. That's Department of Natural Resources and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers.
This be considered an emergency if the
There
homeowners
is
are,
no emergency when it comes to a wetland.
how soon could we get a permit to?
You're looking minimum 90 days,
Right.
and then we're gonna be in the frozen ground.
But are you sure? I mean,
No,
you're absolutely
freeze. No,
100%.
frozen, it's full of
No,
water.
no speaking.
If I wasn't 100% sure, I wouldn't be telling you.
Right. But in the past, I've mentioned this to your department.
I
to
can't speak to what
Several
happened in the
people, and
past.
I know, but I'm saying is, had I known that there would be a permit needed and it would take 90 days, I really would have kind of pressured, I would have pushed harder, but I just don't, having been out there and having seen the number of times that area has flooded, and it's only gotten worse over the last half year, more specifically in the last couple weeks with the amount of rainfall we've had, we are causing, or our lack of action or trying to really push somehow, some way to get this done is going to cause the homeowners up and down that street tremendous amounts of flooding damage. There's nothing we can do to prevent that. I mean, no emergency declaration, no governor signing off, or something needs to be done, because we just can't say, oh, you turned down the road project because you didn't want to spend $14,000 per property to get the road put in. I mean, I think that we have to think a little outside of what happened a year and a half ago and say, right now, currently, we have a pretty significant issue that we're going to be facing, that we can act to prevent that. And I don't want 6 months from now, when everyone's homes are flooded terribly, to say, oh, we just didn't do anything. I mean, there's got to be a better way to handle this situation than what you're stating. Would you agree?
No, I wouldn't.
So 6 months from now, you're willing to look all of those property owners in the eye and say, well, you turned down the project, or the city council actually turned down the project a year and a half ago, and because of that decision, you have to deal with the flooding, when we could have done something a little more aggressively to fix it or
I'm
prevent it?
saying, in my professional opinion, we cannot do anything more aggressive than that. There are processes that need to be followed.
Right. The processes would include the engineer, you said, would be an expert in the water retention or water drainage.
Even if this was a straightforward, go out there and dig out a ditch and we needed to get the permits from it, for it. Are you telling me that you want every other project that the city is currently working on to go back burner over this one? Because that's what's gonna have to
Perhaps, if we
happen.
could
We will have
prevent
to
it,
pull our
if-
engineering staff
Come on.
off of what they're doing and retask them to work on this project.
If I.
You asked a
All right.
legitimate question, I'm giving you a straight answer.
If I go into an emergency room and there's someone dying of a gunshot wound or someone that needs a flu shot, I mean, I would triage that and say the gunshot wound takes precedence. So what I'm saying, apples and oranges, but in the public works world, I would say if there are projects that could be, pushed aside a little bit so that we can, avoid pretty significant flooding to property owners and taxpayers, I'd be willing to take that argument to any member of the city council and say, you know what happened a couple times in the city of Green Bay recently where homeowners were faced with pretty significant flooding, the devastation that causes on a family, I would be willing to take that case to anyone if we can avoid it. I would win that argument almost entirely. What sort of projects are you stating need to be done that we would have to back burner?
If you wanna give those the directives and start picking and choosing the projects that staff works on,
Right.
go ahead and
Which
make that
ones are they
recommendation.
though? Give me an example,
Every design project we've got going on right now.
like an example.
An example, alleviating the flooding on Main Street, alleviating the flooding on the East River, design projects for reconstructs for next year, the resurfacing program, the entire resurfacing program for 2020, development and bringing to this committee the capital improvement program for 2020, work on the city budget.
Mhm. A lot of flooding related issues,
Yeah, got flooding all over the city.
including here
Mhm.
on Hillcrest and Westway.
And the solution for that was offered up over a year ago and is in the works to be
I
completed
know, but you
next year.
can't, it
We've got
seems
the
like
solution in
we're,
hand.
the narrative is that we're punishing the people who are most affected because of the
Nobody's
fact
being
that.
punished.
Well, that's what it appears like to me. It's that we're saying you had your chance a year and a half ago, even though there is no wheel tax and special assessments are absolutely through the roof. I think the council voted 10-2 or 9-3, I forget what the vote was, to move forward with the wheel tax. We identified that the funding mechanism we had for residential reconstruction and construction was not a valid funding source, so we made that decision. My motion was to hold for 1 year. I fully anticipated that it would be in this last budget. I understand why it wasn't. We didn't have the revenue in the wheel tax. But there's no guarantee, Director Kinnear, that the city is going to approve this project. It's in the capital improvement plan, it still has to pass the budget.
It's not part of the budget.
I know, it's not, well, we haven't voted on it.
Capital program is not part of the budget.
Right, but we
Completely
could,
separate.
but we could vote in this
You could,
council
and then it would be
to.
the council.
Okay,
who
so
made
it's
that
up to the
decision.
council, and then what you're stating is, well, the magic bullet is, this coming year, that road is in the capital improvement plan. Well, we could vote against that. In the meantime, that project gets pushed further and further when there's something that we could start right now to start digging out the ditch. Like right now, we can't predict the future. Who knows what situation we're in as a city? We haven't even seen the budget yet. If there's something terribly wrong with that budget and the majority of the council, despite my push to keep it in, says, nope, we're not gonna do that road, then they don't have the reconstruct, they don't have the plans, it's all irrelevant. They're gonna have the same problem this spring and next spring if we don't do anything.
Again, apples and oranges. Capital improvement program is not part of the budget. They are completely separate documents, completely different discussion.
Right. Right, but what I'm saying is it's in the capital improvement plan, but that doesn't mean that the city's gonna move forward with including those projects, because last year when we did the budget, I was very specific in asking questions about Hillcrest. Hillcrest was not put in last year with the informal understanding, and I didn't press too hard other than pretty rigorous line of questioning that will be in for this year. There's no guarantee of that. My point is that right now, if we act and say, let's go work on removing the sediment and the vegetation and all the things that are blocking water flow, why wouldn't we do that regardless of what the city council votes next month and the month after?
If you have a motion you'd like to make, introduce the motion.
If we make a motion to direct Public Works to remove the sediment and dirt and anything blocking a culvert to allow proper water flowage and drainage away from the residential properties, what would your action be? We make that vote today.
I would assign
City
it to a
council.
staff member to get working on it.
What does get working on it mean?
Determine what permits are needed, come up with what the design is going to be, because we're obviously not following the design that was in.
Just dig out the ditch until that permanent plan is put in place.
Okay,
like getting a-
I've heard 3 times tonight, I don't have to be an engineer. Okay, well, I am one.
Mhm.
The problems that we have out there on Sandia have nothing to do with drainage, they have everything to do with the soil conditions. What we need is to design that ditch so it flows properly.
Right.
Because if you just go out there willy-nilly and start digging a ditch out, you're gonna wind up with ponds.
For-
Nice low spots in between them, and it's gonna pond water up.
And the
And
pond
it may
water
not,
will.
it may not flow down to the thing, but it's still not gonna
The
go.
pond water would create
No.
what?
The same
flooding?
conditions that you have right now.
Right, but in a pond, not residential properties based.
The ponds would be in people's front yards, in between the culverts. So it does
We
need
already
to
have
be
that.
designed.
Yeah, but what they're stating is that is already occurring. There's water ponding.
So we
around
could
the
go out there and
ditches.
expend a fair amount of city dollars and get nothing out of it.
In the
We
last
wind up
6
in the exact
months,
same
and-
situation that we're in right now.
Since this
without a
issue
design.
came up the last year and a half, what amount of staff time or resources has your staff put in to alleviate the problem or at least look into it?
None, because the project was designed for a permanent solution for implementation in 2020.
Right.
So it's been addressed.
So.
There are areas around the city that haven't been looked at yet that are flooding, that we are trying to dedicate efforts to finding a solution for,
Say-
so that everybody gets treated.
Digging out a couple feet of the culvert area, right where Supervisor Buckley and a few of the neighbors have pictures of the vegetation and everything that was just blocked. You didn't see the picture, but there's no way of seeing where that culvert opening is. Couldn't you simply dig around that? If take their word for it, they're not experts, neither am I, but I mean, I have common sense to say if you dig around the entry, that would allow water that previously had been blocked from, that would allow that to flow through the way that it was designed to do. You surely can dig a couple feet around that entry point of the culvert, couldn't
It
you?
might allow the water to get into the culvert, but it may not get out the other end of the culvert, and once it does, it may simply pond on the other end of the culvert.
Okay,
Unless you have a continuous flow path from high point to low, the water's not going to get where you want it to go.
okay. So if we direct you today, you'll make a motion, the council approves that motion in a week, and we say, direct Public Works to alleviate whatever the motion would be. Are you stating you would just delegate it to staff, and even by delegating to staff, they could come back and say, no, we're not gonna do anything until this final plan is approved and put into place?
No, what they'll do is they will start designing a separate project just to do the ditching work out
Why don't you
there.
just dig out the culvert area?
Because you
Why?
can't do that.
Why?
You will be investing city funds with no guarantee, no reasonable expectation that you're going to get the desired end result.
I think you could make a reasonable assumption that would alleviate some of the flooding. I mean, if you dig out an area where water is being backlogged, I mean, you can make a reasonable assertion that would ease flooding. So like if I had a hole in the ground that was overgrown with dirt and weeds and I, brushed the dirt, the water would go where the culvert would direct it to go. I mean, wouldn't you agree with that?
No, I wouldn't.
By a lot, by
You're
digging-
talking about an area this big, and we're talking about a drainage path that's hundreds, if not thousands of feet long.
Right.
Completely different
It's
story.
already there, it's a ditch.
Completely
I got
different
no,
story.
I got no other questions. I'm not gonna get any more.
All right, Alder Dorf, you had.
I did. Today I was out, and Sunday I was out walking around in a former field that used to be farmed. And now I have 6 houses, that because that field is no longer farmed, because of the drainage, it has become a wetlands. Sound familiar?
Yeah.
Okay, and this is at the far east side of Green Bay, and you guys are the far west side of Green Bay. And so there's a ditch, and the ditch has a lot of stuff in it. And, we think, wow, if we just could clean out the ditch. Well, I was out tramping around with the land, with the homeowners, then with 2 people from DPW, and they gave me an explanation. Unfortunately, that sounds very much like this explanation that Steve is giving me, that, and in fact, even worse, because when it's a wetlands, you have to go to the DNR, and they have to look at the growing season. And they said to me, Barb, we're about a week away from the end of the growing season, so we can't even ask until April, which is the beginning of the growing season. And then the DNR has to, 60 to 90 days for them to come back to see if they will allow us to widen the ditch or deepen the ditch. And they may not allow that. And so if they don't, then what? So in the case of 3 of the homes, it looks like if the homeowners with their own money put up a berm, all 3 of them would have to agree, put this berm along the back of it, that would be acceptable to the city. We wouldn't be diverting water. On the other side, it's more like digging a reverse French ditch. I learned a new word today. Do you know what that is? I don't know what that is.
French drain?
Yeah, drain, okay? So they would in their yards have to put in a drain, like $10,000 to put this in one yard, and then dig down and then cover it with rock. You put ground cloth and you put rock over it, and then the water could flow down their backyards and then go out to the street, where it will probably create quite a bit of ice in the winter. But so this, I'm telling you this story because it's happened today. And it's like this exact same story. And I think probably there's the same story throughout the city, that things that were never wetlands before become wetlands. Because I asked the same question, how could this be, they were growing corn here, how can it now be wetlands? But things can become wetlands. And then we don't have power. The DNR does have power over that. So I'm in the exact same pickle that you guys are, with homes that are getting flooded. And I feel like that, I feel DPW is doing something, because they came out and looked and they went, oh, and this, and here's the rule, and here's the law, and they told me and they explained it to me. And maybe next April, we'll be able to get a permit. Maybe by July, we'd be able to get a permit. And if that becomes a project that gets on the list, because I don't even know if it's a project that's going to get on the list, and then maybe for next year, they might not have flooding. It's just kind of amazing that it's like the exact same thing that's happening here.
No, it isn't. Far from it.
So,
It's far from it, okay.
Can I go up there?
Well, we have
one
to
moment,
open
sir.
the floor,
Yeah. Do you have any?
I don't.
There. All right. This would entertain a motion to open the floor.
Yeah, so moved.
Second,
Motion by Alder Burnett, second by Alder Dorf. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Mr. Remington, is that on up?
The problem with this ditch, going from my house again this way, there's only one driveway between here and Mason, and that's where Chris lives. There's a high spot right here. I don't know if that's when Mr. Dietrich was farming this and he had a drive going into that field there or what. It's okay from here to that driveway, but from here back to here, it's done this. On the other side of his driveway, the ditch is 4 feet deep going down to this 30-inch culvert right here. It's 4 feet deep, but there's no water in it because it's all sitting from here to here. That silt and everything that's built up over the years, I wouldn't be standing here, we wouldn't be sitting here today. If 12 years ago when I called, they'd have come out there and cleaned that ditch out, I wouldn't be here today. It's not, it isn't just a one from last year thing. That ain't where this problem came from. I've been trying to get someone 12 years out there to dig 450 feet up. It's all designed, you can see it downhill to that 30-inch culvert. Up to that driveway, it's just because the water is backed up there, the grass, the cattails, everything's grown, the roots. It's up to the top of the culvert. The water can't go nowhere, it's all black mud and roots. It just needs to be dug out. But we were told last year at the meeting, we shut that road project down and we'll quit maintaining it. And that's what's gone. I got a brush pile sitting out in front of my house, it's been there for 3 weeks. They won't even come get my brush. Thank you.
Mr. Buckley?
You know, Director Grenier did say that we get no attention whatsoever out there if that project got canceled, which I think for a department head in his position to say that to the people.
That's not what I said
It's just
at all,
plain,
Pat.
it's my
That's
fault,
not-
it's my fault.
That's not what I said
I'm not
at
here to
all,
argue.
and you know it.
You know what? Let me speak. It's my turn now. Like they said, had this got addressed over the years that we've asked for it to get addressed, we wouldn't be here right now. We've been, ever since I've lived that end of West Point, I've been asking to get something done. So if it's gonna take 6 months to get it done, let's start working on it now. Because, you know, if it's gonna only take 3 months, like you said, it's not gonna be frozen in 3 months. It takes, what is it, into February before it actually freezes because there's so much water? And I think that we have to look at who's responsible for the ditches. Who's responsible for maintaining them? Who's responsible? We can't take it upon ourselves to get a backhoe and do it ourselves. So who dropped the ball in getting it done? Unfortunately, we have to say Department of Public Works in the city of Green Bay. And so is it up to us to have to put in a $10,000 or Ms. Dorf's constituents to have to put in a $10,000 drain or build a berm? It shouldn't be their problem. When the design for that subdivision or when those houses were put in, the drainage should be taken care of. It's like now they're having a lot of places put in these water retention ponds, and they put in special growth in them. And what that does is back up the water into other people's yards. You know, it's happening now in the industrial park. Then we wonder why we have a rat problem, or we have other problems with rodents, because we have all this marsh area that ends up developing. So I think the city public works needs a makeover, and we need to figure out how we're addressing it, because the city's flooding and we're not addressing the problems. Simple fixes that could have happened several years ago, we're not done. I don't understand why. I don't understand why. But I would like to think that coming out of here, at least coming out of here, the process should be started, whether it be for the far east side or the far west side. I don't want excuses. I just want the water to flow. We can sit here and listen to excuses all night long why it's not done. The bottom line, it's not done, and we have to do something about it. Simple as that.
Yes, sir. Step up, state your name and address for the record.
Ryan Julick, 2320 Remington Road. I'm not here to speak about this, but since since I've been hearing about it for quite a bit, to me, I'm not a civil engineer. He's obviously a civil engineer. It's kind of the same thing where just dig a ditch. Well, it's like going to the doctor and say, oh, I think I have this because I saw it on the internet. I yield to experts. I don't think it's as easy as just digging a ditch from what Director Grenier is saying. If the city has a plan for it, it's just, I wouldn't be able to afford it if I were in your shoes, you know, the assessments and whatnot. So it sounds like you guys have an option to fix this. It's just the money. Now the wheel tax is there. You know, it's supposed to hopefully get done next year. So why dedicate more money to just dig a ditch, which you're spending more money where there's already a solution to the problem, when there's people on the east side who are, you know, don't have any plan at all right now. So you guys got a plan. I know it's expensive, and I feel for you, but there's also people too who are dealing with flooding who don't have a plan. So that's that's my 2 cents.
Anybody else wish to speak on this item? Entertain a motion to close the floor.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Alder Dorf to close the floor, second by Alder Burnett. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nays, motion carries. Director Grenier, just 2 questions. Does the city have a program in place for addressing the management of ditches in kind of our, I guess I would assume are the far reaches of the city that actually have them?
No, it's usually complaint driven.
Okay. And so maybe I'm looking at you, Alder Burnett, just because you, and maybe Alder Dorf too, could be, you guys have districts, right, where that's an issue. Maybe that could be a future communication to develop a proactive plan. My second question then, Director Grenier, is related to that area being declared a wetland. If in next year's capital improvement plan, this project were approved, would you need to apply for that permit to the DNR to make those improvements?
Yes.
Okay. Is there anything that would, is there like an expiration of the issuing of that permit? Meaning if we were to apply for it now and start that cycle, is there an expiration that would
Yes,
potentially come
there
up?
is.
Do you know how long that period is?
Offhand, I don't. To the best of my recollection, wetland determination and delineation was completed as part of the original design. I believe that determination has either a 3 or 5 year life to it. So to the best of my knowledge, any wetland determination or delineations that were performed as part of the original design would still be valid.
Okay. And
So
I'm sorry.
over the winter, staff would be applying for any necessary permits to allow that construction to begin.
Okay. Okay, that's all I've got, I think, for questions. I don't think that, an obstacle should be an excuse for inaction. And I think really, there's, at the heart of the debate here is, what can we do now? And then versus do we wait until the project moves forward? And I think that's really the source of disagreement. So, that's why I'm kind of maybe looking to you, Alder Burnett, your district. You kind of raised your hand a little bit.
Oh, I was going to ask a question, but that's
Okay.
fine.
I don't know if you're ready to offer a solution or a motion.
No,
but-
so Director Grenier, the work, if you look at the plan, you said that it was in effect for 3 to 5 years. So when the road was to be done in April 2018, work had been started, I believe, from what I understand. Like permits were pulled and.
No, permits were not pulled.
Not the
A
permits,
wetland
but-
determination or delineation likely was completed. I believe that to be the case.
Okay.
However, I'm not the designer on the project. I run a 211-person department. I don't
Sure.
know the intricate details of this project.
Right. So if what you said was pulled in 3 to 5 years, that could still be valid, that we wouldn't have to start from square one if that 3 to 5 years hasn't lapsed. Do I understand correct?
Correct?
Okay, so it's something as simple as that the plan is in place, that we would just apply for the proper permit.
We could apply for the permits, but as Alder Dorf indicated, it could take them up to 90 days to even comment on it. They could turn around and say they need additional information. They could request to go out and do a revisit on the site, at which time we're beyond the growing season, which would delay it until April. They could deny the permit and tell us, no, you can't dig it out.
Is there a record at Public Works of all the public, you said the current ditch management is a complaint-based strict system?
Yes.
Every time a member of your staff or any other city employee to assess the situation, do you keep records of the visits and what was determined and correspondence placed?
To be honest with you, I have no idea.
Okay,
I have no idea how many times former Superintendent Feetzer was out there.
right. So normally I don't get as animated during meetings, I think we all know that, but the fear that I have is that we have a known flooding situation that through the years has been getting worse. And we're looking at, spring, pretty substantial damage if I were to predict correctly. And we're facing this situation where we can make improvements to prevent it within reason. And if it was my home or anyone who I knew's home, which I represent all these individuals here, if I'm facing the possibility of having my home flood, I think it's reasonable to do what we can do to avoid that. So the urgency, the frustration I feel is based on my 1.5 years of knowing this situation, and now we are at this critical situation where we are a few months away from the ground freezing, and then in spring we're going to possibly have a situation that we could try to avoid. So what would the expense be if the permit is approved by the DNR and there's a 90-day turnaround? Let's just say everything goes the way that it should. What would be the cost to do
I
it?
have no idea. You're asking me to guess.
In the past, when these
I have no
has there
idea.
been a
You're asking me to
precedent?
guess.
So have we ever dug out a ditch somewhere
Yes, we
throughout the city?
did Luxembourg Road. We did ditches along Church Road. Those were several years ago.
Okay, so what you don't recall some of the details of
No, I don't.
that the crew sent out there, the machinery?
Most of
the
those were
length?
done under contract.
Okay, so we would bid out the
Correct.
project. So how long does it take to bid out a project?
Assuming that you have a design completed, it takes a month for the project to go out on the street, receive bids back. Assuming that we receive bids on Tuesday and come to INS on Wednesday, another week beyond that for council to approve the contract, typically a month for the contractor to get his bonding in order, and get equipment mobilized to the site. So assuming everything was good and we ran into absolutely no hiccups from this point, 5 weeks from next week, or 5 months from next week.
After the permit is secured.
No, that would include the permit.
So we apply for the permit,
90 days, that's 3 months,
so 90 days after we
then a
apply,
month,
then a month
to
and a half.
bid, then a month to get a
So
contractor
another
started.
obstacle.
5
So
months.
could you bid out the project that, well, obviously you wouldn't get many contractors who would take it seriously if it was a speculative project, but, I mean, surely Public Works has the machinery and the manpower, womanpower, whatever, to do the work,
Not
right?
necessarily.
We've never, as a city of Green Bay, dug out a ditch with our own.
We used to have a grate all, and that broke down, and we decided not to replace that piece of equipment about 8 years ago.
So from 2011 till now, I'm assuming that's when the piece of equipment broke down, 2011 till now, we have never used city machinery or labor to dig out ditches? We've always contracted the work out?
I believe that that has been contract work since we got rid of the grate all.
Could we borrow a piece of equipment from another municipality? I just don't
I
want
could
to
rent
keep,
equipment,
I just don't
sure.
want to have more and more obstacles come up. I'd rather get it all on the table, because otherwise we're just, stringing these folks along. They're looking at potential, pretty sure they're gonna have flooding in the spring if we keep getting the rainfall and snowfall we've been getting. That's pretty much assured based on the recent records that we've faced in the city. So if I'm them, I'm looking at, okay, April 1st, when the thaw hits, we're gonna have flooded basements. So I don't wanna keep putting obstacles in the way, like we gotta clear this hurdle and we gotta do that. Like, I want it all known now so that they don't go home getting some false sense of security. I mean, are you stating that we definitively could not loan material from? or-
No, I never said that. I
Right.
could rent equipment if I need to.
Okay, so that's a possibility.
Absolutely.
So from the, whatever, if we decide as a committee tonight to, place a motion to direct Public Works to come up with a plan to alleviate flooding by November 1st, let's just say. So from that time that motion is made and approved at council next week, you will start the process to secure all that equipment and loaned
No,
equipment?
what I will do is I'll start the process of putting a plan together, which includes applying for any necessary permits.
Right.
I can't guarantee you that I'm gonna have anything in hand in order to get that work completed before spring thaw.
So-
There's a lot of this stuff that is simply beyond my control.
Right, but I'm just trying to think of things that are within our control, or your control, that could make the project happen. I'm not trying to micromanage your staff or you, I don't know if you are getting the full effect of what's occurring here,
I understand completely.
but what you're giving me reasons why it won't happen.
No, I'm not. What I'm trying to do is manage expectations so that people do not walk out of here thinking that I do have a magic bullet and then suddenly I can't produce and now I'm the bad guy again.
What would you need to do to produce on this? Like, why don't you, like, that should be, in my opinion, one of 12 council members who has a huge responsibility to the folks here. That's my question is, what can you do, what will you do to ensure that this can happen?
What I will do is I will immediately assign it to a staff member to try to get resolution, but I can't guarantee that that's going to happen. So if you're asking for a guarantee, I'm not going to give it to you. I can't. There are simply too many variables in this project that are outside of my control. I can't
Right.
give you that guarantee.
Would you try your best, given your capabilities and staff?
Alder, I can't believe you even asked that question.
I can't believe you'd be offended by that question. I'm not trying to get under your skin, Director Grenier.
To imply that I would do anything other than my best, in 12 years of employment and 7 years running this department, what would ever give somebody reason to even ask that?
All right, let's keep the discussion focused on the issue.
It's not directed to you or your professional competence. I'm just relaying the concerns I've heard from the folks who I
Understood.
represent. Right.
Director Grenier, you had mentioned when we talk about the process and the need to do the bid, and then obviously, I mean, the permits, bidding, all that stuff, I mean, each thing consumes a little chunk of time. Is it under your purview to be able to bypass the bidding process?
Absolutely, and that's, we'd rent the equipment and try to handle it with our own forces.
Okay, so that could at least, depending on the outcome of what the committee decides tonight, that could at least be an option to shave off some time,
Potentially.
potentially, okay? Is there any other discussion?
What,
I'm looking for a motion, maybe.
I'll make
Yeah.
a motion to direct Public Works to come up with a plan to address the flooding issues along Hillcrest near the area westway to be implemented by November 1st, 2019. Did you get
come
that?
up with the,
Oh, I'm open for revisions.
no, no,
It's a-
I just want to hear it read back. Did you get that motion?
I mean, if he doesn't get the
Who
permit,
gets the
he
motion?
can't.
Who
To
writes?
direct staff to come up with a plan to improve flooding issues by removing dirt and ditches around culverts on Hillcrest Drive, specifically near Westway Drive, to be implemented by November 1st.
That is just like, but how can it, to be implemented? He's coming up with a plan to see if it can be done. That I agree with. But well, how can we make sure it's implemented by that?
Plan, I guess.
A plan.
But a plan is nothing if it doesn't have any, veracity to it. I'm just concerned, I'm concerned for many reasons. I mean,
Right,
you know my frustration.
right.
Alder Burnett, if I
Yeah.
could just suggest, if we drop the deadline of the date on there, and instead have the plan presented at the next INS meeting, which would then, if there is an emergency solution that is available to us, you could still have it implemented by early November without putting that constraint on us right now, by simply having the plan presented at the next INS meeting. Or not, or what options we have available to us.
If I understand. For me, it's a timing issue. There are a lot of things that need to occur before. We've heard that we get a permit, we have a plan, we get a permit takes 90 days. We then have to go out to bid on the contract, and then that's a possible 45 day. Before you know it, it's too late. And I just think that there needs to be some.
Yeah, and I agree, and I appreciate that sentiment, and that's why I'm thinking if, instead of November 1st, we're saying it has to be implemented, it's not within staff's control to be able to do that if we're not granted the permit from the DNR. So that's why I would suggest instead that we have the plan presented at the next INS meeting, which is even before November 1st.
Sure.
And then if we are able to get some type of emergency resolution to it, we have the capacity to still do that by November 1st. But I think it would be difficult for us to bind staff to something that they cannot
Fair enough.
That would
commit
be
to
my
do.
concern.
Yeah.
So you're going to, no one seconded the motion yet, so why don't you just restate the motion?
Yeah. Do you want to? Just the way.
Same
that
thing you
word-
said, instead of implemented by November 1st, have the plan presented at the next INS
Okay.
meeting, which is on, for the benefit of those in attendance
2
here,
days from now,
would be
23rd.
October 23rd.
Okay, make a motion, I'll just start fresh. Make a motion to direct Public Works to come up with a plan to alleviate flooding on Hillcrest near Westway and report back to the next Improvement and Service Committee meeting. Does that sound good?
Second.
Okay, I have a second by Alder Dorf. Director Grenier, within that plan, if you could identify what permits and lead times, things of that nature that are also required.
We'll do our best.
All right, we have a motion by Alder Burnett and a second by Alder Dorf. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
So, Alder Johnson, could you just explain?
Oh, yeah, so what we do tonight is a recommendation to the full city council. Full city council meets on Tuesday. It's possible the item could be pulled and discussed at that time. If not, and the full council approves the recommendation of the committee, then it would be the responsibility of the staff to bring a plan back to us for our October 23rd committee meeting. Good? Okay. Item number 3, consideration of possible action on request by Alder Dorf that Department of Public Works, when it is developing its 2020 services plan, prioritizes all areas in the city where residential flooding is occurring, that in-depth research and planning continues to be done to prevent future flooding, with the understanding that this will be an extensive and expensive plan when completed. Does it have to be expensive?
It's gonna cost a lot of money.
Alder Dorf.
Okay, so my purpose in having this communication is that we all know there's a lot of flooding issues throughout the entire city. And I just wanted to ask that when Director Grenier is developing the plan, and maybe this is already done, but that residential flooding, in my mind, should be the highest priority. Now, maybe there's a reason why it shouldn't be. Maybe there's others that are higher than that. I would say that if it's residential first, businesses second, that would be the way I would prefer it. But I'd like to hear about how we prioritize, and if that is that a legitimate request? Is that a good request to try to look at prioritizing residential flooding?
I would think if you wanted to offer a suggestion to the staff that residential flooding supersedes business flooding, we would accept that suggestion. For you to state that your desire is for us to prioritize that to me means that takes precedence over pavement condition, sanitary sewer condition, water main condition of the storm sewers. That is the primary focus on how we select our projects.
Oh, that's not really what I meant.
So if you were to ask that we consider alleviating residential flooding as part of the development of our program, we would gladly welcome that suggestion.
Yeah, that's what I would ask. That's exactly it. In fact, I thought I had the word consider in my communication. I try to always put the word consider, but
I guess the one thing that
No,
I would
it's
suggest is
rewritten.
I'd hate for us to take a position on that and create some type of legal position for commercial businesses to have a claim against the city because we're not prioritizing flood damage that could potentially occur to their property.
okay, so then let's get rid of that word prioritize. That if I were to make a motion, maybe we need to talk a whole bunch first, but let's say if I were to make a motion, it would be that I would ask that Public Works,
Well, if I might be so
Yeah.
bold as to suggest
Please.
for you, Alder Dorf,
please.
replace prioritizes with considers and strike residential.
So you just, well, okay.
What are we trying to achieve here?
Well, my understanding of what Alder Dorf wanted was to make sure that flooding is taken into account, not just pavement condition and condition of the buried underground sewers and water main, but also areas where we're experiencing flooding, and that we don't forget about those areas.
Right, like the Far East Side, which isn't next to the East River. And, we're having lots and lots of issues off of Nicolay Drive, on Beach Lane, on
Because
Wiggins
what we
Way, on
have
Sussex.
told you in the past,
It's crazy.
when we've described the processes that we're using for selection of candidate streets, prior to about 7 years ago, pavement was the primary driving factor. That was what drove our program. So the street rating was the largest single contributing factor to selection of projects. With the advent of a more robust GIS system for tracking on our other infrastructure, we've been able to assign ratings to the sewers, and water utility has completed a system-wide evaluation of their infrastructure. Now, they have a little bit different rating system, but we can interpret with them how to prioritize what mains need to be replaced before others. And we're able to take all of that data together and look at the condition of the sanitary sewer, look at the condition of the storm sewer, look at the condition of the pavement, look at the condition of the water main. And with that homogenized data, we've been able to reshuffle the deck and figure out what projects rise to a higher priority and should be programmed first. My interpretation of what Alderdorf was getting at was, don't just look at the sewer infrastructure, also look at areas where we're experiencing flooding and try to resolve that as well.
And even further than that, while I'm very concerned about my own district, as you are about your district and your district, I am concerned about everybody's homes in the whole city. So that I had put 2 communications in that night, one specific to something in my district, but I wanted to make sure that I'm caring about this whole city and the flooding, and when it's people's homes, that's like the worst, I think.
Well, and
So you talk to a business owner.
I'm not sure if you've been,
Yes.
I'm not sure if you've been coming to all of the meetings.
Oh, I've been watching them. It's just providing with
Okay,
many hours
well,
of entertainment.
Then you know that we've come before the committee several times over the past few years talking about the hot spots. We know where the flooding is occurring. And with those hot spots, we targeted specific drainage basins. So that's how we look at things. It doesn't matter to us what's inside of it. What we look at is the number of complaints and the probability of damage resulting from those complaints. So we look at the basin itself, and we've been targeting those basins that have the highest incidence of recurrence and the highest probability of damage resulting from flooding. And that, we've been programming those exclusive of a street project. So for instance, when we did the upgrades of the storm sewer on Farland, we did a project a year ago on Smith and St. George Street up in District 6. We did a replacement of an upsizing of a storm sewer on Elizabeth Street between University and Main. I believe that was last year as well. One of the items we're going to be talking about tonight is the bids that were received on the lift station project for lift station 110, which is in Alder Johnson's district. That's the one down by Shipyard. What we actually are doing over there, we're combining 2 small lift stations into 1 large lift station and then repurposing that equipment over to the Eliza Street lift station in District 4. Okay. We have started taking on those types of projects, which are standalone flooding-related projects, where we never did that before.
Okay.
So flooding is a concern for us, and we are currently evaluating and programming to handle that as best we can, given the...
So do you even need this? Do you even need this, or are you already doing it?
In my opinion, I think we're already doing it, but I want to make sure that you're comfortable with that before we do
Because-
something like a receive and place on file.
Right, because that's, and I hear what you were saying, Alder Johnson, that I'm not saying businesses aren't important. Of course they are. Of course they are. So all areas where flooding is occurring, yeah. And I guess here's another thing that I've been hearing, not from you, but I went to this Brown County meeting, and that, roads or whatever, the system wasn't developed for these types of storms. The system, or this much development, it was more about, we've developed so much. So much development has happened, and that is what's causing part of the problem. So here we are, and our infrastructure wasn't designed for that. So here we are, but we're having a problem. So that the in-depth research and planning was about, well, I guess we have to deal with the fact that we are more developed, and even if we didn't plan it to be this way, it is this way. So how can we redesign? And I that's where I said extensive and expensive, because to redesign everything.
I mean, they provided a $100 million report for us.
Yes, they did, and yes.
So you've got your
I was there.
expensive report.
I do have my expensive report. And so that's what's going to have to happen. I guess I want to honor that, the fact that I realize it can't all be done by next year
Well,
or
and-
November. It's just not going to be.
Again, in my opinion, I believe we're already doing what you're asking.
And you did
But-
have that big report, because I did watch
We
it.
must not be doing a good job of communicating that because
No, it wasn't really that. It was more about, people's home. I didn't want to feel selfish by giving this next communication because I have homes in my district being flooded. I was feeling like I need to care about everybody's. So that was mainly the reason behind this, and then realizing that we need to design everything for this new reality that we now live in, that we didn't plan to live in, right?
And the caveat that I'm gonna put on that, okay? We're still gonna have problems, okay? We could invest $500 million just looking, ignore street ratings, ignore sanitary, ignore water main. Just storm sewer alone. I could easily invest $500 million with a B, okay? And let's say $500 million gets us up to the existing level of development, and I've tried changing the narrative. You're not gonna hear many people talk about it, they're starting to, but what we call a 25-year storm. Okay, it's a term that's been used, but it's not a true term.
I know, I understand it since I listened to the
Okay,
improvement
the
services.
25-year storm has a 4% chance of occurring,
with any storm,
okay?
remember.
We're currently designed on our systems, city systems, for a 10-year or a 10% probability storm. That does not include all of the storm sewer we inherited in 1965 from Preble. Preble, if it was designed, some of it's designed to a 2% storm, or not a 2% storm, a 2-year, which is a 50% storm. That storm has a 1 in 2 chance of occurring. Okay? So it'll flood out constantly.
Right.
Some of it's designed to a 7-year return or a 7% interval. Okay? Very undersized. So I could easily spend $500 million and maybe I get us to the 4% storm, the 25-year storm. The storm that we received September 11th, the storm that we received March 15th, the storm we had September of 2018, and the storm that we had in August of 2018 all exceeded that storm event by a huge margin. Okay?
Right.
The two storms in August and September of 2018 were a 750-year and a 1,000-year storm, respectively.
And so
So we could have spent $500 million upgrading the storms, and let's say that by doing that, I actually had room enough to get those pipes in the ground without sticking through the pavement,
Right,
and we still would have flooded.
right.
We still would have flooded.
So we can't ever guarantee that
So
there's,
it's a combination of the amount and the type of build-out that we've had, but it's also a function of the type of storms we're getting, and that's due probably, if you believe the meteorological experts, to climate change.
right.
So we can expect those types of storms
Continue.
more and more and more.
So I'm content with, unless you guys disagree, I think that that's probably what he's working on, and that was a good explanation, so I would move to receive and place on file.
Second. Motion by Alder Dorf to receive and place on file, second by Alder Burnett. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Right.
Opposed, motion carries.
Oh, look, it's me again.
Item number 5, right, no. What am I looking at? My eyes
It's
are
me
going a
again.
little
More
into
water
right now.
More water flooding, it's,
So sorry, which one, 4?
yeah.
Consideration, the possible action request by Alder Dorf that the Department of Public Works and Improvement Services consider the proposal from Brown County to partner with the City of Green Bay to change and improve drainage in Nicolay Drive and Beach Lane areas to include the necessary funding in the 2020 budget. Alder Dorf.
So I know was really going to be a controversial communication, because I've been to the meetings and I know that Director Grenier has the research, but the county is in charge of Nicolay Drive, not of Beach Lane, but of the areas that are coming off the, well, you guys probably don't know the Far East Side. There's a ledge and the water runs down and through the farmers' fields and the houses get flooded and it goes across the road and Nicolay Drive gets all flooded. And from the entrance to UW Green Bay all the way out to the end of the city, which near the town of Scott, that's county. That's a county highway. And then the stuff in is ours. So the county has said, with their half-cent sales tax, that they have this money, that they will put in $500,000. That it'll be about $850,000 if we put in $350,000. And they have a beautiful plan prepared. I went to the meeting. They had a great presentation. And it would alleviate the problem. If you know where the Eagle's Nest is, if you guys know that part of the town, okay, out in Nicolay Drive, there would be something running on one side of that property and like a drainage river, and they'd be doing some other, but it's a hugely extensive project that probably needs to be done. So Director Grenier, how do you feel about putting that in our budget for 2020?
Well, again, you're going to hear me continue to come back to this. Not budget,
Oh, I'm sorry.
capital program.
Capital Improvement
Okay.
Program. I'm
Because
sorry. I
we're,
put the
because
wrong-
we're doing verbatim minutes, I'm going to
Yes.
consistently come back to you folks and make that
The
correction. because it's
Capital
not in the budget.
Improvement Plan.
Okay. Well, what we do is we tend to look at things like this from a water rights issue.
Do you want me to catch the door for you?
No, we have
No,
to.
We
okay.
have to leave it open.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, though.
Thank you.
So, the argument that the county is using, for lack of a better way to put it, okay, the other two alders, Alders Johnson and Burnett, you've been hearing us talk about drainage basins as they relate to flooding, so you're familiar with the term, okay? What we have is a drainage basin, and that basin is all city taxpayers, if you want to think of it that way, okay? And cutting through that basin, the high part of the basin is the Niagara Escarpment. So water comes off the escarpment, hits the farm fields, and then runs downhill to the bay. And it's not a long distance, and most of that's undeveloped farm field, so not a lot of slowing that water down either, okay? Somewhere between the base of the escarpment and the bay, running across the flow path, is a highway, an impediment to the drainage course. Now, since the last glacier pulled out of here somewhere between 11 and 16,000 years ago, that water has followed that drainage path until somebody built a barrier across it. That barrier is a county trunk highway. If you build, whomever builds a barrier that restricts the flow of that water and causes a backwater condition, or conversely, robs water resources from the downstream people, okay? There were wars fought over this in the American Southwest, the water wars, because somebody was damming up a stream and folks downstream couldn't irrigate their crops over it and their cattle were dying, all kinds of fun stuff, okay? So you can't cause somebody to flood upstream and you can't rob somebody of a water resource downstream. Whoever creates that barrier is responsible for essentially equalizing that flow. In our opinion, that county trunk highway is what's doing that. So it's the county's responsibility to alleviate the problem. If the problem was flooding caused by a design of our sewer, then that arguably could be our problem. But from what I understand of this, the amount of water that's flowing into the county ditch exceeds the county ditch capacity. It then spills over the road and kind of goes wherever. It doesn't follow the ditch or the prior stream. So what the county wants to do is improve those streams and channelize that water better to capture it. Okay, that's all well and good. That, in my opinion, that's not a city responsibility. We shouldn't be investing our money there, that's their responsibility. Now, how can I say that? Okay, that's city water that's flowing in there. Arguably, it's county water, okay? They're part of Brown County, right? What the county is saying is, we're only responsible for managing the water that's generated on our paved surface, and that's not correct, okay? What I talked to Alder Dorf about was, there was a jurisdictional study that was completed. The jurisdictional study was completed in 1982, and it recapped some jurisdictional transfers that happened back in 1979 that became effective on January 1st of 1980. What happened at that time was, where county trunks entered the urbanized part of the city of Green Bay, they ceased to function as a county trunk highway and began to function more as a city street. So, if you're familiar on the northeast side where the Arnie Wolf Soccer Complex is, out by Fire Station 7, Humboldt Road is asphalt until you get just east of Arnie Wolf, and then it changes from a 2-lane asphalt to a 4-lane concrete, 2-lane with parking, okay? That was the point of demarcation. That is 875 feet east of Bascom Way. That was where the urbanized area began and ended in 1979. So jurisdictionally, the road was transferred at that point, and from that point in, the concrete section became a city street. We allow them to put the badging for County Trunk N on it, but it doesn't show up as a county trunk highway. It's not recorded. The right-of-way is not county trunk, and county was relieved of all future responsibility for construction, reconstruction, maintenance, and upkeep associated with that road. By the same token, they accepted from that point out to the east city limits as a county trunk highway. Now, technically, when we helped participate in the reconstruction of Humboldt Road, we had no obligation to do that. We did it to be a good partner. And I made specific mention in the municipal agreement between ourselves and Brown County that by our participating in that project, we did not waive or release them from any of the obligations of the prior agreement. They did not like having to sign that, I will tell you that. As Alder Dorf indicated, likewise on Nicolay Drive, the line of demarcation now happens to be the main entrance to UWGB. From that point in, road is concrete and it's 4 lanes wide. From that point out, it's 2-lane asphalt rural segment. That's county's responsibility, and that's where Beach Lane is, out beyond. All of Webster Avenue, if you look in Alloway, Webster Avenue coming through De Pere is marked as County Trunk X until you get to the South City limits in Green Bay, and then the County Trunk X badges disappear. County Trunk GV ceases to become County Trunk GV out by the Croc Center. We let them have the badges, but it's not a county trunk highway, that's a city street, that's Limekiln Road. There are a number of those across the city. And what they're now asking us to do is they're saying, well, that's city water, you guys should pay half. Now, I know Alder Dorf indicated that they said 500, 300. I have an agreement that was forwarded to me by their Public Works Department earlier this week asking me to sign that indicates total cost of the project $787,500. Half of that coming from Brown County, half coming from the city. And our argument has always been that's not a city issue. It's not the water, it's the fact that you're crossing it and causing that water to go somewhere else. That's your problem to deal with.
So how will the problem be dealt with? I mean, there's a problem.
I don't
There's a problem.
disagree with the approach. I don't know that it's necessarily our financial responsibility to do that. I believe it's the county's.
So then how do we force the county to do that?
I don't know that.
County Board Supervisor.
Sieber, he's in on it, but, I mean, so if the county, throws down the gauntlet, says, yeah, we'll help you, city, because that's kind of how they're phrasing it, we'll give you half the money, and we'll help pay for half of it. You have to pay the other half.
Ultimately, if we can't agree,
Yes.
then the project doesn't get done, and the people on Beach Lane file suit.
Jesus.
That's what's gonna happen.
They're funding it with sales tax money? You said.
Well,
I mean, if that's the
there-
case, it sounds to me like they've got some city investment then.
Oh.
Advice.
Oh, that is not a good answer, that people on Beach Lane
And
sue.
we're not trying to be difficult. What we're trying to do is we're trying to be legally and financially responsible.
Well, there must be little spats between the city and the county, a lot, right?
We're trying very hard not to.
Okay, so what is the path that one takes when there are these?
Well, we've been largely unsuccessful on this one, and that is, we've been trying to tell them that's your issue to deal with.
Well,
And
does,
they disagree with us.
okay, so then does this have to go to, does the mayor have to get involved? Does city council have to get involved? I mean,
I would think that, this to me sounds like an administrative issue where it should be, I mean, if it's, we're not able to resolve it, I mean, although, if we're not able to resolve it at staff level, although it sounds to me like Steve has resolved it from the city's perspective,
right.
I would think it rises up to the executive level at that point.
So,
Direct staff to discuss with the mayor, to
Yes.
have discussion with the county exec.
that is exactly what my motion is.
Okay?
I would like to direct staff to have a discussion with the mayor, to have a discussion with the county supervisor on,
Well, we can have them go direct, we can have them go all the way up to the county executive as well.
that's what I meant.
Yeah.
I meant the executive. I did not mean the supervisor. I meant the county executive.
All right, we have a motion by Elder Dorf,
Second.
Second.
second by Elder Burnett. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, motion carries. Item 5, consideration with possible action request by Elder Galvin to reconstruct on Congress Street and Spring Street.
Again, I'm gonna take a little bit of liberty based on how things historically have run and how I envision prior directive. I don't think what Alder Galvin is doing is directing that this be in the next capital program. I think what he's really asking is for us to consider this to be part of a future capital project, and for it to be a reconstruct, not a resurface, because it wouldn't qualify as a resurface. If it would have qualified as a resurface, it would have been done already.
Okay. So Steve, have you taken under consideration?
Yeah, I think don't forget about this one, and by the way, these do not have to come as formal communications. Any alder is free to come to our office by email, by a phone call, what have you, and say, hey guys, I noticed this street is bad, could you make sure you take a look at this one and see where it slots in? Okay? That's my understanding of what Alder Galvin wants here. He chose to do it with a formal communication, but you can do this simply with a phone call or email if you wish.
All right. Well, I would entertain a motion that we receive and place on file. If Alder Galvin wants to pull it at council, he can do so.
Okay, or we could just ask for it to be considered,
I
which,
think Steve has acknowledged that he's got it logged.
you have it logged already? So.
Well, we will have it logged because he
I'll try to
submitted the
hold it.
communication, but if you wanted to confirm that, again, with what Alder Dorf is saying,
I just think we
what I would suggest is request by Alder Galvin to consider a reconstruct on Congress and Spring.
I would prefer to make that. I think I just
Just for
understood Alder. So I would like to make a motion that DPW would consider reconstruct on Congress Street and Spring Street.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion by Alder Dorf, a second by Alder Burnett. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item 6, consideration of possible action request by Alder Galvin to put in a crosswalk lighting system on East Main Street and Hardin Street, similar to crosswalk lighting on South Webster Avenue at the hospitals for the East River Trail crossing.
Okay, we have a trail crossing that has been utilized at that location that is immediately east of the East River, or East Mason Bridge over the East River. So that is right at ground zero of the spring flood, the March floods. Okay? A couple of years ago, a request came in for a crossing there to connect two parts of the East River Trail. The crossing went in, we were having problems due to geometrics. That bridge has a crown on it, okay? So as you come from west to east on Mason, as you cross through Baird Street and start heading down towards Goodell, the road slopes down and creates what we call a sag vertical. So you hit a dead low spot, then you hit a crest vertical on top of the bridge, and then you hit a sag vertical down in between Hartung and John Street. So you're essentially doing kind of a loop-to-loop, okay? With the bridge being the high point in between the two lows. That creates some vision problems because you're crossing on a low point, a pedestrian crossing on a low point of a bridge with eastbound traffic, and though it's posted, I believe East Mason's posted 30, it's probably routinely driven closer to 40. So you can see where pedestrians may be a little uncomfortable making that crossing, trusting that motorists will yield to pedestrian in a crosswalk. So when the crossing was first enhanced, there was a request that went through Traffic, Bike, and Ped to put up some sort of a warning, pedestrian actuated beacon. So we put it in. It proved largely unsuccessful because pedestrians were pushing the button and they didn't feel, I don't know if they weren't confident that people would stop, or if they weren't getting feedback from the lights we put in or what have you. What we found was people were pushing the button and not stopping out, and then drivers got desensitized to the warning device and they weren't responding to it. So rather than give a false sense of security, the request was to take the button and the lights out, so now it's just a marked crossing with an overhead, okay? What Alder Galvin is asking for is referred to as a RRFB, or a Rectangular Rapid Flashing Beacon. If you have been on South Webster in front of the hospitals since the reconstruction of South Webster Avenue, you've seen an RRFB there. The Packers have installed two of them, one on Oneida Street near the south entrance gate to the parking lot, one on Ridge Road across from the main entrance into the Titletown district. RRFB is a very discrete configuration of the lights and how everything works, okay? It's not, you can't just use the term RRFB for anything. When somebody says an RRFB, it's something very specific, okay? And that's what's being used there. RRFB, when you push it, I believe you get an audible chirp, so the user gets the feedback, and then it starts with a very specific flashing sequence and so on. Those are about $35,000 for an install. Now, the ones that went in on South Webster, those were paid for by the hospitals. We have not installed those at our cost. Consideration to put one in here, it may be justified, I'm not sure. I don't want to duck this, but because the discussion started at Traffic Bike Ped, I would almost recommend that we send this to Traffic Bike Ped for study and have them give us a recommendation back. If they feel it's justified and warranted, they can report back and recommend that INS approve that and put it into a capital program or build it out of, we'd have to find funding source for it.
Yeah, I think I'd support that. I was actually wondering why it was on this agenda.
Yeah.
Because that was a communication we got from Alder Galvin. Was
Sure,
send it
no,
to
that's fine, okay.
I was on Traffic, Bike, and Ped for 2 years, and this is definitely a Traffic, Bike, and
Yeah,
Ped.
all right, so is
So
there a motion?
my motion would be to refer to Traffic, Bike, and Ped.
Second.
A motion by
Well,
Alder.
before we do,
Someone wants to talk about
we
this.
do have somebody here who's looking to speak on this crossing. He's been waiting patiently for the whole meeting.
Okay,
All right.
move to open the floor.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Seeing all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Mr. Jewell, step on up to the podium.
Ryan Julick, 2320 Remington Road. So yeah, the RFBB I think would be a good idea, but if that wouldn't happen, and I don't know if it has to have signage there, but it would almost be better to either have something that that's brighter, or just take the signs down completely. What I've had happen, because I bike that quite a bit, what happens is you'll sit there, some car will stop, and then they kind of wait, like, expecting you to go, but all the other traffic's still going. So it's like, so then otherwise sometimes there's, one this way, one that way, and the other lanes are still moving. So it just creates one of those situations where now I feel like I have to go, but I don't want to. So if there was no signs at all, then the onus is on me that no one's gonna stop. So I just wait for an opportunity to cross. So I think the signs there without the flashing lights makes it worse than if they weren't there at all. But the lights I think would be a good thing, because the lights before weren't very bright. And I don't know if they were solar powered, but yeah, the ones were by the hospital were just much brighter, grab your attention. The ones there were like pretty weak, and I think the sun too, crossing that bridge where that sometimes you couldn't see those lights. So I would say if brighter lights weren't an option, it's probably safer. I know it seems counterintuitive, but just to take the signs down. But again, I don't know if that could be done.
The false sense of security, you're right.
It's like Joe
It
Pa
is.
from Penn State always used to say, if you want to get rid of football accidents, get rid of face masks, right? So it
Right,
sounds
this is-
counterintuitive, but
counterintuitive,
it's, yeah.
Yeah.
You make some good points.
Because I mean, I'm aware of that intersection, and a couple weeks ago I was going past it, and I saw a postwoman there waiting to cross, and so I'm like, oh, I hit my brakes, and the person behind me almost rear-ended me. So it's just one of those things where, like I said, I don't think anybody pays attention to the signs now. And so, if one person says, oh, I need to stop, most of the other traffic isn't going to stop. So it's like,
And it's an actual marked crosswalk.
oh yeah, and there's signs, it says like state law, you must yield to
We need to do a
pedestrians.
Frogger there, don't you think? A Frogger there would be really good.
I bet if we painted the crosswalks.
If we had some really
Yeah.
cute, like, artwork in the crosswalks. Oh,
And I remember I had emailed former Alder Dwayne on this going back. I looked like
sure.
it's in
exactly.
2015.
Traffic bike and ped.
Yeah, so I was kind of like, oh, I saw it on INS, and I was like, huh. But yeah, I know it's got a lot of money and stuff for that, but like I said, to save money, I think it'd be better if it,
Just didn't have them.
yeah, just because then, like I said, no one's gonna under the presumption that they have to stop, and then it's like, okay, I just need to wait till there's an opportunity. I know Alder Galvin also mentioned in the email, like possibly, going under the bridge, and I'm like, I don't think that's probably gonna happen now with the water, and that's probably a lot more expensive too. So,
Yeah.
but
I hope you will go to traffic bike and ped when this gets on their agenda.
okay, yeah.
Because you have some experience with it.
Yeah.
And I think it would be good if they could hear from you. I know, thank you for being so patient with us.
Oh, that's all right.
It's a lesson in civics.
Yeah, I usually watch these at home, on YouTube, so it's a lot closer. So,
Yeah, thank you.
yep, thank you.
Motion to close the floor.
Motion?
So moved. Or second.
Second by Alder Burnett. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Okay, so it's still and
So
now
we
the
just-
motion.
The motion's already been made, so it's still,
So it's still on the floor.
still on the
so-
floor. Is
okay.
there any further discussion?
No.
I would just maybe add that again, Traffic Commission obviously has much more expertise in this area.
do.
And so I would really look to them, for their guidance. I'm not opposed to spending the money, and if it means that we're keeping residents safe, and if it is a highly trafficked area, and I think that's all great information that the Traffic Commission can dissect and determine if there's a
Right.
reasonable return on investment for that. So,
Okay.
okay. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor of referring to Traffic Commission, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Let me see, what item are we on?
7.
7. Consideration with possible action request by Alder Vanderleest on behalf of Kennedy School of parents of students that city plow crews plow Chantel Street from 9th Street to 7th Street in front of Kennedy School during school hours and after school hours as buses and parents pick up and drop off students. Director Grenier, did you get any feedback on this one?
Well, what I what I understand, I've not spoken with Alder Vanderleest, he did not reach out to us on this, but from what I understand, based on the communication and his discussion at council last week, what he's asking us to do is to clear out in front of the school during the school hours so that parents have the ability to pick up and drop off. Well, I'm gonna defer to Alder Dorf. She
Isn't
may
that the
know
s-
how many schools we have within the corporate city limits,
42?
and that's public schools, correct?
Right, no, yeah.
That doesn't
way
include the
beyond this.
parochial schools.
Right, it doesn't include.
I think it would be kind of presumptuous of us to give preferential treatment to one school and not all of them.
Plus, what if the
um,
snow doesn't stop by then, or?
Plus,
the
we
timing?
can't say when the snow is falling, so why would I limit myself to plowing during school hours? You know, if the snow falls at 11 o'clock at night, should we wait until 8 o'clock in the morning when school's in session and then go plow it? I don't think that's what he's asking. So I understand he wants special point of emphasis because there's drop-off and pickup in front of the school, but that situation exists in front of all schools.
Yes, it does.
And I'm going to be not a little, but a lot biased and tell you that I think my snow removal crews do one heck of a job. So, I understand what he's asking, and what I will do is I will share with my crews that, hey, guys and girls, keep an eye on school zones and do the best you can to make sure school drop-offs are taken care of. But beyond that, I don't know that we can fulfill the request as he's asked for.
Yeah, and I think it's, yeah, I mean, you know, fire departments, police departments, hospitals, right? I mean, the list is pretty extensive.
Right.
I've always had an empathetic place in my heart for snowplow drivers as someone who used to own a private snowplowing company. And everybody wants to be first, and it's just impossible. You know, but I think in this particular scenario, I think very similar to the motion we made not long ago, just asking staff to consider ways that they can maybe, you know, take care of those situations, like giving your plow drivers maybe some discretion when they're out, you know, like, hey, it's school hours, you know, but I feel like it's something that maybe staff could really handle by talking to their drivers and.
Well, and
So, can we just refer to staff? Sorry.
we do have, you'll hear us talk about the primaries, our primary routes and then residential routes. School, not only the schools themselves, but the primary busing routes to and from the schools automatically qualify as primaries for our plowing purposes.
So they're already receiving.
They're already
preferred treatment.
receiving
They are.
top billing as far as our addressing it. And the reason I make mention of that, if we have an extended event, we have an event that occurs at unusual times. Okay, and for me, snowing during the day is unusual. I would rather have it snow at night, because a lot of times folks get home, a snowstorm typically doesn't, a measurable snowstorm typically doesn't just pop up out of nowhere. You're gonna have a couple of days warning that it's coming. So if you've been warned that a snowstorm is coming and it's going to hit at midnight, it's gonna hit at 7 o'clock at night, what have you. Typically, people will get home, hunker down, and wait for the plow to go by. If instead it happens during the workday, that snowstorm develops and we start receiving at 10 o'clock in the morning and it doesn't stop snowing until 10 that evening, we may run into issues because we can only work 16 hours and then I have to send folks home to get 4 hours rest and then we can come back and hit 16 again. So when we go into that rotation, I have to poke folks back. I normally have about 85 pieces of equipment and associated bodies on the street during a full plow event. And I can't sustain that for very long. We've got probably 2 good rotations in us and then I need to get people rested. So as we get through that first rotation and we start relieving folks to send them home, I can't send everybody home at once. So we will keep drivers in our primaries. And the order of the day is hold the primaries, okay? And we will hold the primaries until we get workday traffic home at night, 7 o'clock, or get people into work in the morning. If we had an evening event and it continues to snow on into the day, So order of the day becomes hold the primaries, which are the school busing routes, as well as our high-volume streets. Then when we get our full complement back, then we'll spread out and go back into the residential. So just with that, again, there is an automatic emphasis on our high-volume streets, our critical infrastructure like hospitals and police stations, that kind of stuff, and schools. They're already there. We're already doing this.
What would be an appropriate motion, just refer to staff or see if it's on file? What do you think? You said something a few minutes ago, but I forgot
Well,
what
I
you
mean,
said.
just, I guess, ask for staff to give special consideration and
Continue, how about to continue to
Continue.
give?
There you
I
go.
like that. I move that staff continue to give special consideration to all primary routes, which would include all schools.
It's poetic.
Thank you.
Second.
It's different.
All right, we have a motion by Elder Dorff, a second by Elder Burnett. Any discussion? Seeing all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item 8, consideration with possible action on the report of the purchasing manager. Rick, thank you for your patience.
Oh,
Item
you
A,
screwed it up.
request approval to award a 3-year contract to Darrow Oil Company for diesel and unleaded fuel for the estimated amount of $5,201,316, which is $1,733,772 per year, with options for 2 one-year renewals.
So this is a contract that we bid out every 5 years. And put this out to bid. We received 4 bids, and we're recommending the award to the lowest bidder. We dealt with all these companies. They're all qualified and provide good service. Amazing thing to me is that the difference between high bid and the next high is less than 0.4%. I mean, this is just that competitive of a market. So we're recommending the award to Darrow Oil Company.
Okay. Move to approve?
Second.
Motion by Elder Dorff, second by Elder Burnett. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Rick, for being patient with us tonight.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
Item number 9, consideration of possible action on the review and award the contract sewers 5-19 storm lift station 110.
And I'm gonna take an opposite tack. If he's retiring in November, I don't feel one bit bad holding him here this long. We're not gonna be able to do that to him much
I'm
more.
gonna miss these meetings. I'll tell you that.
Come on, tell the
I'm
truth.
just gonna show up as a resident.
So what I've handed out to you is a summary of bids received last Tuesday for the Storm Lift Station 110. Again, that's the shipyard. 4 bidders. Staub Construction came in as the low responsive bidder at $1,123,000. As you can see, substantially lower than everybody else. We have had several conversations with Staub to make sure that this is a valid and bona fide bid. I wish I could come in here and say there was one thing in the bid that made the difference. There was not. How individual line items, how different contractors accounted for their costs or didn't account for their costs was kind of all over the board. So what we were able to do is we were able to kind of take Staub's bid out and take the 3 remaining bids and not look at the average price, but look at the median price, the middle bid from everyone and the low bid from everyone. And when we did that, Staub's number started to look a lot better, more in line. Every contractor had some money somewhere. About the only thing that we can come up with is Staub is more along, and I don't know how familiar with the construction industry you are, so if what I say doesn't resonate with you, let me know. Staub is more like a Myron or an Immel. They are a building station contractor. They build lift stations, they build wastewater treatment plants, they build water filtration plants, they build facilities. The other 3, PTS, Advance, and Dorner, are are our sewer contractors. They're used to building pipes. I think in this case, Staub took a different approach to managing water. Water in the trench resulting from, because what we're going to do is we're going to intercept a storm sewer system that is taking flow from over 300 acres worth of land, okay? There's a 54-inch diameter pipe that flows into this station that has to get cut off, and that water still needs to go someplace. I think Staub has a different way of looking at how they're managing that. And again, we're also building this station into what's going to be the shipyard project. Staub has a different way of building the station, so they're not as concerned with water from the river or from the slip flowing back, groundwater getting into their excavation.
When's the expected installation timeframe?
It will be constructed in the winter.
And activated at that time as well then?
We expect to have it online before storms hit in April.
Okay.
Well, that's good.
And the reason I asked, Steve, is you know we had, some interested parties here not long ago that were looking for some timeframes of when that was gonna happen. So this will give me the ability to go back to them with some updates.
Well, and not only that, again, what we have is a rather large basin, which is 110, and a substantially smaller basin, which is 108, which is immediately to the north of it,
Right.
okay? We looked at doing some improvements to 110 alone, which is this, but decided it would be better to take and manifold those two together and just build a slightly larger station and handle both of them at once, because that's going to handle a lot more of our problem areas. And that's what this represents. The equipment that's currently in those stations is undersized for its current application, but still in very good condition. There's nothing wrong with that control equipment and the pumps themselves. They happen to be the right size, to be properly sized for Eliza and Sidam, the East River flood area. So we're actually going to build this station, and when we take these existing stations offline to put the new pumps in, we're taking the old pumps, and those are going over to correct another area on the East River. So we're getting double bang for the buck here.
Matt Heckenleibel and I had talked about that, those combinations. Is this the same lift station that's intended to relieve some of the flooding that is occurring over on Military Avenue? Is that the same drain basin, or is that a different solution?
I don't
I'm
know if
putting you on
this
the
is going to
spot,
go all
so-
the way down to Military.
I thought Matt said that might be, that this pump might handle that, but again, it's not relevant. It's more of a curiosity thing.
No, I thought to be honest with you, I thought the basin ended around Ridge.
Okay.
But
Maybe I was
could be
mistaken.
wrong. I would definitely talk to Matt. He's got that stuff memorized.
Okay.
That's what he does.
I like the bid.
Like the bid.
You have no concerns about the stock? They're-
No, like I said, we've been answering some questions, and again, they had some unique approaches to things. It's really their risk, if their approach doesn't pan out, that's the number. They gotta perform, and they gotta meet that number.
All right, I'm gonna move to approve, since it's my district, if you guys are
All
all
right.
right with that.
Second. Oh, he can second.
All right, motion approved by Johnson, second by Alger Burnett. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item number 10, consideration with possible action on applications for concrete sidewalk builder licenses by the following: A&M Concrete Construction Incorporated, B. Al Dix Concrete Incorporated, C. Delrar Incorporated. Steve, any concerns?
All three good, recommend approval.
Entertain a motion to approve.
Move to approve.
Second.
A motion by Alder Dorf, second by Alder Burnett. Any discussion? Seeing all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item E, informational, 1, Director's Report on recent activities of the Public Works Department.
Three very, very quick items for you. First of which, I think we've already put the initial public notice out, but we will be blasting it again through the rest of this week. Leaf collection starts on Monday, and will likely wrap up in the second week of November. Item number 2, the docks at Metro. We have started pulling those out, and we'll have them fully, we're gonna get as much out as we can early in the season. We typically leave 1 or 2 in for late season fishing and duck hunting. If weather conditions allow, we'll pull that out in November. We'll play that one by ear, but the docks have started coming out as well, in addition to the floating docks downtown. Third item, I hate to even bring it up, but National Weather Service is telling us that there is a possibility we may have snow in the forecast, so we are already getting equipment ready for the conversion from summer to winter.
Like when? What day?
They're talking about a mix on Saturday and Sunday. Right now, they're anticipating that it could hold north of 29 and might miss us, but 2 days ago, we were prepared to get hit with a wet slushy mix on Saturday already. So we're starting to make plans for a conversion. I don't know what you subscribe to. I use a lot of different sources, National Weather Service. I've got weather stations, weather reporting stations across the northern tier of continental United States. I've got some in the southern portions of the Canadian prairie provinces, all the way out to Vancouver and Seattle, that I will regularly monitor to see how the storms are developing coming across the states. We use a little bit of voodoo and the Old Farmer's Almanac.
Well, I use Brian's Psychic. He
And
introduced me.
the Old Farmer's Almanac this year is predicting 7 named winter storms. So if you place any kind of.
How many?
7.
7 winter storms.
Named winter storms.
Named. How many did we have last year?
I think 4.
Oh, no.
And
Last year.
they, I think since 1787, they are like 82% accurate, so.
Wow.
They got a pretty good batting average. I will be making my predictions by the end of the month. I've been doing that with my staff for the last couple of years.
All right.
Move to our receive and place on file.
Second.
Motion by Alder Brunette, second by Alder Dorf. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item 2, the next Improvement Services Committee meeting is scheduled for October 23rd, 2019.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Alder Brunette to adjourn, second by Alder Dorf. Any discussion? Any discussion at all?
Would you stop? Aye.
Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, motion carries.
Thanks to Barb for filling.